Every story you have ever heard belongs to a spider. Before there were books, before there were writers, before ink ever touched paper, all the stories in the world belong to one small, clever creature. His name is Anansi, and this is how he changed the world. In the forests of what is now Ghana, the Akan people built a civilization that stretched across West Africa, the Ashanti Empire, with its golden stool and mighty armies, was feared by all. But the Ashanti knew something that warriors often forget. The most powerful weapon is not a spear, it is a story. They called him Kwaku Anansi the Spider. He was not big, he was not strong, he could not fight a leopard or wrestle a python. But Anansi had something more dangerous than muscle. He had a mind that never stopped working, and a tongue that could talk the sun into setting early. Above the clouds lived Nine, the sky god, Anansi's own father. Nine was the creator of all things. He held the rain, the sun, and the seasons in his hands. But he also held something else, something he guarded more jealously than any treasure on earth. Stories. Every tale ever told, every fable, every legend, every whisper around the fire, all of them were locked inside a golden box in Miriam's palace. Nobody on earth had stories of their own. They all belonged to the sky god, and Anansi decided that was going to change. The spider climbed up to heaven. He stood before the sky god and said, "Father, I want to buy all the stories." Nahum laughed. Kings and chiefs had tried before, armies had tried. And here was a spider, barely the size of a man's fist, asking for the greatest treasure in existence. Nahum set a price. No one could pay. "You bring me 4 things," said the sky god. "Guinea, the python who swallows men; whole Mamoboro, the hornet whose sting brings death; or Sable, the leopard who fears nothing; and Mamosia, the fairy no one can see. 4 impossible tasks for one small spider." Anansi went to the forest where Yunin the python lived. He carried a palm branch and a long vine. He stood where the python could hear him and said loudly, "My wife says you are shorter than this branch. I say she is wrong." The python, proud and vain, stretched himself out to prove his length. And while Onini stretched, Anansi tied him to the branch with the vine. 1 knot, 2 knots, 3. The great python who swallowed men whole was caught by a spider who used nothing but words. This is the way of the trickster. The mind is always stronger than the body. Next came the hornets. Anansi filled a gourd with water and poured it over himself and over the hornet's nest. Then he placed a banana leaf over his head and cried out, "The rains have come. Quick, fly into this dry gourd before your wings are ruined." And the hornets flew inside. For Osebio the leopard, Anansi dug a deep pit and covered it with leaves. The leopard fell in at night. In the morning, Anansi offered to help him climb out. He lowered a vine, but when Osebio was halfway up, Anansi let the vine swing, and the leopard dangled helplessly in the air. The fairy Mamotia was the hardest. Anansi carved a wooden doll and covered it in sticky sap from the tree. He placed a bowl of yam beside it. When Mamotia came to eat, she thanked the doll. The doll did not answer. The fairy slapped it in anger, and her hands stuck fast. Anansi returned to heaven carrying all 4 prizes. Nahum looked at the tiny spider who had done what no king or warrior could do. He did not laugh this time. "Anansi," said the sky god, "from this day forward, all stories belong to you. They shall be called Anansi Spider tales. The golden box opened and outpoured every story that ever was or ever would be. They scattered across the world like seeds on the wind. From that moment, every story told anywhere on earth, whether the teller knows it or not, is an Anansi, a gift from a spider to all of humanity. In Ghana to this day, when someone begins to tell a story, they do not say once upon a time. They say, we do not really mean it. We do not really mean it. And the audience replies, we are listening. We are listening. This is how Anansi are told. Spider tales. Anansi was not always wise. Once he gathered all the wisdom in the world into a pot and tried to hide it at the top of a tree, but the pot on his chest made climbing impossible. His young son called up, "Father, if you put the pot on your back, you could climb easily." Anansi was so angry that his own child was wiser than him, that he dropped the pots. It shattered on the ground, and wisdom scattered everywhere. That is why no one person holds all the wisdom in the world. It belongs to everyone. Even the youngest child can teach the oldest elder. In the Caribbean, Anansi's rival became Tiger, the big, strong, fearsome tiger who thought muscle was everything. But in every story, every single one, Anansi wins. Not by fighting, never by fighting. He wins by thinking, by talking, by making the powerful believe they are being clever when they are being fooled. Every culture has a trickster. The Yoruba have Eshu, the keeper of the crossroads. The Norse have Loki. Native Americans have Coyote. But Anansi is special because he does not just trick for himself. He tricks for the powerless. His stories taught the enslaved that the small can defeat the mighty. The trickster is the hero of the oppressed. When you cannot win by force, you win by wit. When the powerful make the rules, you find the loopholes. Every Anansi story is a survival lesson disguised as entertainment. That is why when Africans were taken across the ocean, the spider came with them. Beginning in the 15th century, European ships came to the West African coast. They did not come for stories, they came for people. Over 4 centuries, more than 12 million Africans were taken across the Atlantic in chains. Entire civilizations were torn apart, but they could not chain the stories. They could not chain Anansi. In the belly of slave ships, packed so tightly they could not move, men and women who once had names, families, kingdoms, whispered to each other in the dark. They whispered stories. Anansi stories. Stories of the small outsmarting the powerful. Stories that said, we will survive this. We will endure. The stories survived the Middle Passage. They crossed the Atlantic in the memories of the enslaved. No ship could carry them. No chain could bind them. No slave master could find them to destroy them. The stories lived in mouths and in hearts, invisible and indestructible. The spider had spun a web across an ocean. In Jamaica, Anansi became Anansi. The spider lost none of his cunning. Jamaicans made him their own, gave him new stories, new enemies, new tricks. He became a national folk hero, the symbol of a people who used their wits to survive the most brutal system humanity has ever created. The Anansi stories were more than entertainments. They were coded resistance. When a slave told the story of Anansi tricking the master, everyone understood the real meaning. The trickster was teaching them how to survive, how to navigate a world where they had no power except the power of their minds. Today, across the Caribbean, from Jamaica to Suriname to Curaçao, Anansi festivals celebrate the spider who survived. Children grow up with Anansi stories the same way they grew up in Ghana centuries ago. The tradition never broke. The web stretched, but it never snapped. The spider held on through everything. But the spider's web did not stop in the Caribbean. It stretched further, northward to the cotton fields and tobacco plantations of the American South. And there something remarkable happened. The spider changed his shape. He took off his 8 legs and put on long ears. And Anansi became something new. In the American South, enslaved Africans transformed Anansi into Brer Rabbit. The rabbit, like the spider, was small and clever. He could not fight bear or fox with strength, so he fought with tricks. Every Brer Rabbit story is an Anansi story wearing a different mask. The same lessons, the same hope. Every night, after the fields, after the punishments, after the degradation, they gathered and told stories. Stories where the weak defeated the strong, where the clever escaped the cruel. These were not just tales, they were maps for survival, instructions coded in laughter. Anansi would have been proud of his American children. In 1881, a white journalist named Joel Chandler Harris published Uncle Remus, his songs and his sayings. He had listened to enslaved Africans telling stories and wrote them down in exaggerated dialect. He became famous. He became rich. He never once mentioned Anansi. He never once acknowledged where these stories came from. Then came Disney. In 1946, they released Song of the South. They turned the stolen stories into a musical. They made millions from tales that enslaved Africans had carried across the ocean in chains. African mythology became Disney property, and still no one spoke the name of the spider who started it all. Disney eventually locked their own film in a vault, embarrassed by its racism, but the deeper crime was never addressed. An entire tradition of African storytelling stretching back thousands of years had been taken, renamed, resold, and erased. Brer Rabbit replaced Anansi. America forgot that its most famous folk stories were African. In 2005, Neil Gaiman published Anansi Boys. For many readers, it was the first time they heard the name Anansi, the first time they learned that Brer Rabbit was an African spider in disguise. The real name was finally being spoken again. The thread reconnected. The web began to repair itself. In Jamaica today, Anansi stories are taught in every school. The spider is a national treasure, protected and celebrated. Jamaican children know what American children do not, that their favorite trickster was born in Africa, that he crossed the ocean, that he refused to die, no matter what the world did to him. And in Ghana, where it all began, the tradition never stopped. And Anansi spider tales are still told the same way they were told 1,000 years ago. The elder begins, the audience responds. The stories change with the times, but the spider remains. He was there at the beginning, he will be there at the end. Anansi has appeared in Marvel Comics, in video games, in television shows, in theatrical productions across the world. Every new version is another thread in the web. The spider who once tricked a python and a leopard now tricks his way into the imaginations of millions who may never have heard of Ghana. From a village in Ghana to the court of a sky god. From the holds of slave ships to the fires of the Caribbean, from the cotton fields of the American South to the bookshelves of the world. One golden thread connects them all. One tiny spider spun a web that covers the entire earth. Anansi did not just survive the Middle Passage, he conquered the world, not with armies, not with gold, with stories. And every time you tell a tale around a fire, every time you read to a child at night, you are spinning another thread in the spider's web. Kwaku Anansi would be proud.